Hi, this is the first of a few stories I've written featuring Captain Tom. This one's entitled Captain Tom Saves the Queen's Birthday Cake. It was a wet Saturday, the first wet Saturday for a whole month. The gardens need it, said Captain Tom to himself as he walked over to look out the window. His daughter Hannah agreed. Yes, we've had a good run, really. It's been almost summer-like for early April, she said. Her Majesty's big day will be here soon, thought Captain Tom. He knew the Queen's birthday because he too was a Taurian. Captain Tom was born on the 30th of April and the Queen on the 21st. There was bound to be a big celebration for Her Majesty's birthday, although the official parade was always held back each year until the second Saturday in June to try and guarantee the good weather on Horse Guards Parade. But Captain Tom was sure there would be at least a party and maybe some fireworks. Captain Tom was hopeful of an invite this year. He'd met the Queen when he'd raised some money off for the NHS. As a long shot, he had joked with the Queen that he would thoroughly enjoy a party at the palace. Well, said the Queen, one will have to see what one can do, won't one? And she had winked at Captain Tom before she had moved off to speak to some other guests. Captain Tom liked the Queen. She had been very young when Captain Tom had first seen her, the daughter of the King during Captain Tom's time in the army. She had been pictured driving trucks during the war effort. It had always struck a note with Captain Tom. Even the then future Queen can get stuck in to help against the enemy. It really showed the everyday Tommy what they were fighting for. The letterbox clanged, and Hannah went to collect the post. There's one for you, Dad, she chimed. It's from the palace, she added with surprise. Well, let me see, said Captain Tom, and he took the letter and gently opened it. Well, I never, he exclaimed, and sat down. I'm quite shaken by all this, he said. Well, said Hannah with a laugh, we'll have to send your best suit to the cleaners, Dad, now you're moving in such high company. And your best dress, Hannah, replied Captain Tom. This invite to the party is for two. Later that week, Hannah looked resplendent in a blue full-length dress, and Captain Tom looked dapper in his best blue blazer, his 3 medals proudly shining brighter than ever on his chest, as they walked through the conservatory that led out into the sunshine that enveloped the private gardens of Buckingham Palace. Captain Tom had never felt prouder. He had been asked to attend a party by the Queen herself. Sure, the invites were all typed by some flunky in the Queen's office, but the emissary who had met them at the palace doors had let slip that Captain Tom was here at the Queen's express wish. She had been very forthright in her desire to meet Captain Tom again, evidently. Captain Tom and Hannah were waiting patiently with a few other party-goers, charity workers and a smattering of celebrities mainly. The latest Love Island couple were there somewhere. Hannah had read that in the paper on the way down on the train. She was sure she'd try and keep Captain Tom away from them and their headline-hogging behaviour. In fact, said couple had only been there for 5 minutes, but already word was being passed round that the celebrated Love Island couple had downed enough champagne to fill a bucket and knocked over a tray of canapes, which highly embarrassed the poor girl who a moment before had been serving them. Best avoided, thought Hannah. Captain Tom was enjoying the sunshine. During World War II, he'd been served in Burma, and it had been hot there, hotter than hot, probably the hottest he'd ever been. And since then, Captain Tom never complained about the heat. He just soaked it up. There was a fracas taking place somewhere. Raised voices reached the crowd. I am the chef, and I asked you for a special, was clearly heard before a door was slammed shut. Oh dear, I think something's wrong, said Captain Tom. Don't worry, Dad, I'm sure they'll have it all under control, Hannah said, trying to calm him down. But maybe I can help, said Captain Tom. And before Hannah could stop him, he had made off towards the raised voices and the slammed door. Captain Tom opened the door slowly. This is the last straw, the chef was shouting, his face scarlet and his fists banging against the top. Ahem, coughed Captain Tom. Is there a problem? Can I help at all? What is this? Who are you? Where have you come from? Said the chef quickly. I'm Captain Tom, said Captain Tom. I like to help people. Is there anything I can do to help you? Not unless you can make a cake out of what I have here. My useless sous chef has forgotten to buy eggs and sugar, and we have to make the Queen's special cake for tonight's party, cried the chef. I don't know what to do. Relax, said Captain Tom. I think I can help you with what I have here." "How could you possibly do that?" exclaimed the chef in disbelief. "We have no eggs or sugar. What sort of cake can you make without eggs or sugar?" "Leave it with me, chef," said Captain Tom. "Can you and your team do just as I say, please?" Okay," said the chef slowly. "I'll try anything at the moment." When Captain Tom was younger, he'd served in the army for many years. He'd been in India and Burma during the Second World War, and in those times there was a short supply of many things we take for granted now. Sugar and eggs were rationed, so people could only have a certain amount of these to last many days. Some people had none of these things at all. But necessity being the mother of invention, people came up with recipes for cakes that used no sugar or eggs. Captain Tom had eaten many a cake made without sugar or eggs, and he knew they were delicious. Captain Tom spent time with the chefs, and they followed his instructions to the letter. At the end of it, they had a cake, a great, big, beautiful cake. The chef didn't know what to say. He kept shaking Captain Tom's hand and saying thank you over and over again. Captain Tom and Hannah returned to the gardens just in time to greet the Queen as she walked along the path, her corgis trailing behind her. "I've been looking all over for you, Captain Tom," said the Queen with a big smile. "I really wanted to know how you felt when you got my invitation. Was it a great surprise for you?" "It was the best day of my life, ma'am," replied Captain Tom. "I was genuinely moved by your invitation." "Have you seen much of the gardens in the time you've been here?" asked the Queen. "They are particularly beautiful this year." I've been looking elsewhere, ma'am," replied Captain Tom with a knowing smile. Later that evening, the guests had collected in the grand ballroom. Captain Tom was on the top table along with Hannah and the Queen. Prince William and Kate had joined the festivities that evening and were sat beside Tom and Hannah. The meal was served and it was divine. The best salmon Captain Tom had ever tasted, followed by the most tender beef Wellington he'd ever seen. When it was time for dessert, the master of ceremonies stood and declared to the room, "My lords, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the presentation of the Queen's birthday cake." Trumpets sounded a huge fanfare, and the kitchen doors flew open, revealing a trolley with the biggest cake you've ever seen on it. The head chef with his gleaming white hat, reflecting the shimmer of hundreds of candles on the tables, pushing it along with a big smile on his face. To be fair, he had managed to make the cake look quite spectacular, with marzipan corgis and decorations all around the base of each layer. The chef approached the top table and he caught Captain Tom smiling in the corner of his eye. The chef said, "Your Majesty, there was something of a problem today in the kitchen, but one of your esteemed guests helped me get around it. However, your cake is not to the usual recipe, and for this I apologise if it in any way subtracts from your birthday celebrations. I take full responsibility." The Queen was taken aback by this declaration. "Oh, well, very well, chef. I'm sure it will suffice." The trumpets sounded and a hearty rally of happy birthday to you was sung by all. The Queen then took the knife and cut the first slice of cake. Everyone stood waiting for the Queen to taste the cake. After the chef's words, there was a nervousness in the room. Would the Queen like the cake? Everyone was standing worried. Everyone except for Captain Tom, that is. He knew something the others didn't. He knew who'd helped make the cake. The Queen put a forkful of cake into her royal mouth and started to eat. She stopped abruptly. Her eyes were wide open. She continued to chew and tears rolled down her royal face. A courtier fainted, unable to take the tension. The Queen finished her mouthful and swallowed the last crumb down. "My word," she exclaimed. "I haven't tasted anything like that since my days in the Women's Auxiliary Service. My mother used to make a cake like this. It's wonderful, just wonderful." The room breathed a huge sigh of relief and then erupted in cheers and applause. The cake was cut up and everyone had a piece, and it tasted truly wonderful, just as the Queen had said. The Queen pulled the chef to one side and asked, "How did you know that this recipe and the cake would be so wonderful? How could you possibly have had that recipe?" "Well, ma'am," said the chef sheepishly, "I was in somewhat of an ingredients crisis when one of your guests stepped in and saved the day. Without his help there would have been no cake and no ovation. "Tell me," said the Queen, "who was this mystery helper?" "It was Captain Tom Moore, ma'am," said the chef. "He was truly inspirational." "Isn't he always?" said the Queen. "Where is he? I'd like to thank him personally." They all looked for Captain Tom, but he'd already left, going home with Hannah to some welcome cocoa and his favourite slippers. He didn't want the fuss. Besides, it was the Queen's big day, and she should be centre of attention. His birthday wasn't for another 9 days yet. He just wanted a good night's sleep before seeing what tomorrow brought him. "Good night, Hannah," called Captain Tom. "Good night, Dad," said Hannah. "Sleep tight." Thank you. That's the end. Thank you very much for listening.